Gary Michael Capetta wrote a lot about you in his Body Slams book. He talks about
Gary Michael Capetta have a book.
He did. It's called Body Slams with an exclamation point.
Oh, that's funny.
Here's what he wrote here. From the first TV taping that Eric produced, his plans for me became crystal clear. For the preceding 5 years, I had enjoyed a prominent on-air role. Jim Cornette had dubbed me the world's most dangerous announcer. Jesse Ventura playfully referred to me as Kopetsky. The production team accepted me as a full member of the broadcast family, rare for a ring announcer. The directors were generous with close-ups, name mentions, and an occasional interview. But soon after arriving at the Dothan Civic Center in Alabama for his first day as a producer of the WCW syndicated television show, Bischoff began to banish me from the close-knit family with little regard for my years of loyalty to the parent company. As had been the case with McMahon 15 years earlier, I was appalled at Eric's manner of cleaning house. Quote, Gary, I just came up with this idea. I want you to try something new starting with these tapings, end quote. Eric delivered his message with so much enthusiasm that I was already picturing the Toys R Us shelves overflowing with Gary Michael Capetta battery-operated microphones that our head of merchandise had promised me years before. Sure, Eric, what is it? I want you to speed up your introductions. Make them livelier. Don't change your announcements. They're fine. Just pick up the pace. That's not a problem. Whatever you think would be best. Good. So you don't have any objections to changing up your style a little? And when Eric uttered that one crucial question for extra emphasis, I should have suspected I was being set up. Before long, I learned that he was only telling me a small part of his plan. He failed to mention that he had already instructed our director to avoid capturing me on camera and then told the play-by-play guys to talk over my muted announcements. In effect, he slyly and subtly eliminated me from the show so that the damage was done without my knowledge. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, Gary, you're kind of a stupid fuck if you didn't see it coming.
Oh.
When a producer says, dude, you want to speed that announcement up a little bit because you're taking too long and you're killing the show. And if that makes you the world's most dangerous announcer, wear that fucking crown proudly, you dipshit. This is funny shit. Here, and I don't need to say, Gary said it all. If you really dissect what he wrote in his book, I can't believe Gary Michael Capetta had a book. What the fuck? That's like the valet at a hotel, writing a book. Yeah, I worked at the Hampton Inn downtown. I worked as a valet for a couple of years. I'm going to write a memoir. But look, Gary wanted to be like so many people that are really, they're not the main course. I've described myself when I was doing play-by-play. I was the garnish on the plate, and an announcer doing play-by-play has a much more significant role in the show than a ring announcer. Now, unless you're someone special, someone larger than life, someone that is known for announcing big fights, somebody that is recognized all over the world, you're just a fucking little cog in the wheel that needs to get out of the way as quickly as you can. Get your job done, announce it, and move on. Nobody in the world is tuning in to see a ring announcer. And if any of the jackasses in WCW that were running WCW before I got in charge and was able to take control and right that ship, if any of those numbskulls suggested to you that you're going to get a Gary Michael Capetta microphone and it's going to sell out in Toys R Us, you were as fucking delusional for believing it as they were for suggesting it. Which is why, by the way, before I took over WCW, it was in the shitter because of people like you, Capetta, not in spite of it. Oh, Gary, I feel for you, Gary. I'm sure he's working as a maitre d' in some little, all-you-can-eat Italian buffet somewhere in New Jersey or wherever the fuck he's from. But Gary, to write a book and try to make it sound like you know what the fuck you were talking about. Look, the only time anybody saw this guy is when he showed up to do TV. He wasn't in the office. He wasn't a part of the company. He wasn't involved in any of the business decisions. He wasn't involved in fuck all. He made sure his tux was dry cleaned. He showed up. He wore a fucking gobs of makeup, and he went out and tried to make himself the star of the show, which slowed the show down, which is in part, not completely, but in large part responsible for the dismal fucking ratings that WCW had at the time. That's on you, Gary, not by yourself, but you were a part of it. You were a part of the problem and not a part of the solution, which is why I got rid of you.
Well, let's talk about that. Gary had a lot to say about you in his Body Slams book. He's going to talk about Michael Buffer here. Let's get into it.
Oh, because this is it. This is the source of all Gary Michael Capetta's angst, because I replaced him with somebody that actually fucking mattered.
When I arrived at WCW headquarters, Gary Jester called me into his office, where Eric soon joined us. Here's how Bischoff's latest story went. Quote, Gary, in order to elevate the importance of our next Clash of the Champions special, I'm going to bring Michael Buffer in to handle the announcements for the main event. Now, it will only be for this one show, and I wanted you to hear this directly from me so that you won't misinterpret Buffer's appearance at the Clash. I want you to know how much I value your work. Although there are going to be quite a few changes and nobody's position is safe, you should know that you will not be affected by the cuts that we're going to make, end quote. Jester then took an inner office call and then excused himself from the meeting. As soon as the door shut, Eric lowered his voice, leaned toward me, and in hushed tones, he continued, if there's anyone who should be concerned for his job, it's him. As Eric sternly gestured towards the closed door with an assertive nod, I sat there in a state of shock. Wasn't he aware that it was through Jester that I got my big break with WCW? Didn't he know that Gary and I had enjoyed a long friendship? Eric was putting on a show for me, or was he really that cold? As I sat facing Bischoff, it was clear that he was not to be trusted. It became clear that I too was being set up for the kill. And that's when I decided to seek out legal representation for our upcoming contract negotiations. And that's when an incensed Eric stopped the I'm your buddy charade. Your response?
It's a figment of his imagination. First of all, I didn't give two shits about Gary Capetta. In the big scheme of things, Gary Capetta was a gnat on a hamster's ass. Not even a pimple, a gnat. And I wouldn't have taken the time out of my day to have that conversation. And by the way, Gary Jester had nothing to do with television, which is an indicator. This is why when people read this shit by people like Gary Capetta, who were so far on the outside that they had no idea of what was really going on internally. I would have never had that conversation with Gary Capetta, and I certainly would have had it in front of Gary Jester, because Gary Jester had nothing to do with anything that happened on television. So right off the bat, you know Gary Capetta is full of shit. It's just a lie. It's Gary trying to write something in a book that made Gary feel more important than Gary really was, or make Gary's perspective of me somehow credible. And instead of coming up with something good, he suggested that I'm having this meeting where I wanted to assure Gary Capetta that nothing is going to happen to him, and don't worry about this Michael Buffer cap because we value you. It's so much bullshit. And then to suggest that I would tip my hand about Gary Jester, who, by the way, I never fired. I don't think I did. I probably should have a long time ago, but I didn't. To suggest that I would make that comment to him is just so out of character for anybody that knows me, knows how much bullshit that is. Gary, you're a sad, sad little individual that had an opportunity to have your 5 minutes of fame, whatever it was, 2.5, 3 maybe, but you were just a little tiny cog in the wheel. You weren't even the garnish on the plate, Gary. You were that little slab of cold butter that you get with a hard, crusty roll. That's what you were to the overall meal that was WCW at that time, at the peak of your fucking career. You were nothing more than a little slab of cold butter at a Denny's restaurant meal. That's it. That's all you ever were. But hey, if a book makes you feel like you were more important than that, you go, Gary. And if ever I'm hungry and I'm looking for an all I can eat Italian buffet, or maybe somebody hosting a big dinner at the local VFW for charity, and I see you standing out in front in the same tuxedo that you wore because you're reliving those moments, Gary, in your own mind, I'll swing by and say hi. Maybe you can autograph your book for me.